The Nexus station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of light and metal. It was the largest structure in the known galaxy, built over thousands of years by hundreds of species working together. Millions of beings lived and worked within its countless levels. Diplomats argued in grand chambers. Merchants sold goods from distant worlds. Children of a dozen different species played in gardens that stretched for miles. At the heart of the station stood the great chamber of the Galactic Council. Here, the rulers and representatives of 300 intelligent species gathered to discuss the fate of civilizations. Wars had been stopped in this room. Alliances had been formed. The future of entire worlds had been decided by votes cast beneath its domed ceiling. Ambassador Valeth of the Karathi Collective sat in her assigned seat, reviewing reports on her data tablet. She was old by her species' standards, her blue-gray skin showing the wrinkles of nearly 2 centuries of life. She had served the council for over 60 years and had seen many strange things. Very little surprised her anymore. The session today was routine. Trade disputes, border arguments, the usual complaints from younger species who felt they deserved more respect. Valeth listened with half her attention, her mind already planning her evening meal. Then the alarms began. At first, it was just a soft chime from the sensor stations. A few technicians looked at their screens with confusion. Then more alarms joined, growing louder and more urgent. The chamber fell silent as every representative turned to look at the main display screen. "What is happening?" demanded High Counselor Travanis, the ancient leader of the assembly. His voice was thin with age but still carried authority. A young Karathi technician stumbled over her words. "Something is approaching, High Counselor. Something very large. It just appeared at the edge of our sensor range." "A ship? We are not certain. The readings make no sense. The object is too big to be a ship." Valeth leaned forward in her seat. She had lived long enough to know that when sensors showed impossible readings, it usually meant something very bad was about to happen. "Show us," Travanis commanded. The main screen flickered to life. At first, there was only the familiar star field, the distant points of light that had watched over the galaxy since before any species had learned to walk upright. Then a shape appeared, growing larger as the sensors focused. Valeth felt her heart stop. The object was a ship. There was no doubt about that. It had the clean lines and purposeful design of a vessel built for travel between stars. But its size was beyond anything she had ever seen or imagined. The computer displayed numbers beside the image, but they seemed wrong. Impossible. The ship was 47 kilometers long. 47 kilometers. The largest dreadnought in the council fleet was barely 3 kilometers from front to back. "By the ancient stars, one assist," whispered someone behind her. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted questions and demands. Some called for evacuation. Others demanded to know which species had built such a monster. The Vethkari delegation, a group of tall reptilian warriors, reached for their ceremonial weapons as if they expected to fight the ship themselves. High Admiral Calvos of the Vethkari Dominion pushed his way to the front of the chamber. He was a massive creature, covered in dark green scales, with eyes that burned with constant anger. His species had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the council, and they had never lost their taste for war. "Identify the vessel," he snarled at the technicians. "What species does it belong to?" The young Karathi worked her controls with trembling fingers. "The ship is broadcasting an identification signal, Admiral. The language is... It is..." She looked up, her face pale with shock. "The language is human." Silence fell over the chamber. Not the silence of confusion, but the silence of disbelief. Valeth knew about the humans. Everyone did. They were a primitive species from an unremarkable planet called Earth, circling a small yellow star in an outer arm of the galaxy. Council scouts had observed them for decades. They were still using chemical rockets to reach their nearest moon. Their radio signals spoke of wars and division. They had been classified as a Level 2 civilization, thousands of years away from achieving faster-than-light travel. They were not supposed to have ships like this. They were not supposed to have ships at all. "That is impossible," said High Admiral Calvos. "The humans are primitives. Our scouts confirmed this. They are barely capable of leaving their own atmosphere." "The signal is confirmed, Admiral." the technician replied. The ship identifies itself as the Prometheus. It is requesting permission to approach. Before anyone could respond, the massive vessel began to move. It did not accelerate slowly like normal ships. It simply glided forward with perfect smoothness, as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions it chose to ignore. Within minutes, it had crossed a distance that should have taken hours. The Prometheus came to rest 10,000 kilometers from Nexus Station. At this distance, it filled the view screen completely. Its hull was covered in strange symbols and what appeared to be weapons of unknown design. Running lights traced its length in patterns of blue and white. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a predator seen through the bars of a cage. Then a voice came through the communication systems. It spoke in perfect galactic common, the shared language of the Council. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in peace. We request permission to speak with the Galactic Council. The voice was calm, patient. There was no threat in it, no demand. Just a simple request, as if the speaker were asking to borrow a cup of sugar from a neighbor. High Counselor Travanis recovered his composure first. He was old enough to remember the last Great War, when the Veth Kari had nearly conquered half the galaxy. He had seen terrible things and learned that panic helped no one. This is High Counselor Travanis of the Galactic Assembly. Your presence here is unexpected. How did your species develop such technology? Our observers reported that Earth had not yet achieved faster-than-light capability. A brief pause. Then the human voice returned, and Vela thought she could hear something like sadness in it. Your observers saw what we wanted them to see. High Counselor, we have been watching your galaxy for a very long time. We have seen how you treat species you consider primitive. We chose to remain hidden until we were ready to meet you as equals, not as subjects. The chamber erupted again. The idea that a primitive species had fooled Council censors for decades was humiliating. The idea that they had been watching and judging the Council was even worse. High Admiral Kelvos slammed his fist against the nearest console. This is a trick, a deception. No species could hide such advancement. I demand that this vessel be seized and inspected. If the humans will not comply, we will take it by force. Admiral, please, Valeth found herself saying. We do not even understand what we are dealing with. Threatening them seems unwise. Kelvos turned his burning eyes toward her. The Vethkari do not fear primitives, Ambassador, no matter how large their toys might be. He activated his communication device and began barking orders. Within minutes, the Council's defensive fleet was moving into position around the Prometheus. 200 warships, the pride of a dozen species, formed a sphere around the human vessel. Their weapons powered up, filling space with the hum of barely contained energy. Valeth watched with growing dread. She had lived long enough to recognize the moment when pride overruled wisdom. She had seen it lead to wars that killed billions. Human vessel, Kelvos broadcast. You will surrender your ship for inspection. You will provide all information about your technology and military capabilities. If you refuse, you will be destroyed. Silence stretched across the void. Every being in the chamber held their breath. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again, and her voice remained perfectly calm. Admiral, we did not come here to fight. We came to join your galactic community as friends and partners. We have no wish for conflict, but we will not surrender our vessel, and we will not submit to threats. Please let us talk instead. Kelvos laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. Talk? You think you can hide behind words, human? You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. You have no choice. Valeth wanted to scream at him to stop. Something about the human captain's calm frightened her more than any weapon. It was the calm of someone who held all the cards and was simply waiting for others to realize it. You are correct that we have no choice, Captain Vasquez replied. But perhaps not in the way you imagine. Please, Admiral, stand down your fleet. Let us begin again. The chamber watched the standoff with terrible anticipation. 200 warships against one. It should have been no contest. It should have been simple. But Valeth looked at that impossible vessel on the screen. 47 kilometers of mystery and hidden power. And she knew nothing about this would be simple. Nothing would ever be simple again. The galaxy had just changed forever, And most of the beings in this chamber did not even understand it yet. 80 years before the Prometheus appeared at Nexus Station, a young radio astronomer named David Park sat alone in his small office at a listening station in the mountains of Chile. He had spent 12 years scanning the stars for signs of intelligent life, and he had found nothing but silence. His colleagues called him a dreamer. His funding was about to be cut. He was thinking about giving up. Then his equipment detected something that changed everything. The signal came from a ship passing through the outer edges of Earth's solar system. It was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly not human. David Park stared at his screens for nearly an hour before he could bring himself to believe what he was seeing. He reported his findings to his superiors. They reported to their superiors. Within days, the information had reached the highest levels of every major government on Earth. Within weeks, the leaders of nations that had been enemies for generations gathered in secret to discuss what this discovery meant. The signal had been decoded. It was a Vethkari scout ship, cataloging the solar system and its primitive inhabitants. The report it sent back to its masters was not kind. It described humans as violent, divided, and technologically backward. It recommended that Earth be marked for future conquest once the humans had developed enough to be useful as workers. The leaders of Earth faced a choice. They could reveal the truth to their people and hope for the best. They could reach out to the aliens and beg for mercy. Or they could do something else entirely. They chose to hide. Every nation capable of reaching space agreed to a single plan. Publicly, humanity would continue as before, fighting its small wars, building its primitive rockets, slowly reaching for the stars. Privately, every resource that could be spared would go toward a secret program of development. They would build ships and weapons and technology that could stand against the galaxy. They would prepare for the day when hiding was no longer possible. They called it the Prometheus Initiative. For 80 years, the secret was kept. Thousands of scientists and engineers worked in hidden facilities, deep underground or on the dark side of the moon. They reverse-engineered what little alien technology they could capture from scout ships that strayed too close. They developed new theories of physics that let them bend space itself. They built factories in the asteroid belt that produced materials the Council had never imagined. And they built ships. 12 Titan-class vessels, each one a fortress capable of standing against entire fleets. Hundreds of smaller ships, fast and deadly. An army of drones and weapons that could strike from the shadows. All of it hidden, all of it waiting. Captain Elena Vasquez knew this history better than most. She had been born on the moon base, raised among the secrets of the initiative. Her parents had both given their lives to the program, her father dying in a construction accident, her mother from radiation exposure during an engine test. Elena had sworn to honor their sacrifice by being the best officer the Hidden Fleet had ever produced. Now she stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching 200 alien warships form a circle of death around her vessel. Her crew of 3,000 looked to her for guidance. Some were afraid, some were angry. All of them were ready to do whatever she commanded. "Captain," said Commander Yuki Tanaka, her first officer, "the Vethkari Admiral is powering weapons. He appears to be serious about his threat." Elena nodded slowly. "He believes he holds all the power. He cannot imagine that he is wrong. Should we raise our own weapons?" "No, not yet. Let them make the first move. Let them show the galaxy who they truly are." On the main screen, High Admiral Kael'vos appeared again. His scaled face was twisted with contempt. "Human Captain, you have refused my generous offer of peaceful inspection. You leave me no choice. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with deadly force." Elena stepped forward so that her image would be clearly visible to the alien admiral. She was a small woman, barely 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair streaked with gray at the temples. She looked nothing like a warrior. She looked like someone's grandmother, someone who should be tending a garden rather than commanding a warship. She spoke with absolute calm. "Admiral Kael'vos, I must refuse your demand. We have done nothing aggressive. We have threatened no one. We ask only for the right to speak with your council." "You have no rights here, primitive," Kael'vos snarled. "This is council space. You will obey council law, which I represent." "I understand your position, Admiral, but I cannot comply. If you attack us, you will regret it. Not because of what we will do to you, but because of what it will reveal about your civilization. Please, let us find a better way. Kelvos laughed again, that terrible grinding sound. Enough of this. All ships fire warning shots. Target their engines. Show these humans what real technology looks like. 20 ships fired simultaneously. Bright blue bolts of plasma screamed across space, each one powerful enough to crack open a mountain. They struck the hull of the Prometheus in a blinding flash of light. Nothing happened. The plasma bolts splashed against the ship's shields like raindrops hitting a window. The shield system did not even flicker. The damage readings on Elena's display showed a perfect 0. Silence fell across the communication channels. Every alien watching the battle tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The Vethkari plasma cannons were the most powerful weapons in the Council fleet. They had shattered planets. They had ended wars. And they had just failed completely against a ship built by a species they considered primitive. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Valeth felt her legs grow weak. She had to grip her chair to stay standing. Around her, representatives of dozens of species stared at the screen with expressions of pure terror. "That is not possible," whispered someone. "No shields are that strong." High Admiral Kael'vas recovered quickly. His species had not conquered an empire by giving up easily. "All ships, full attack! Destroy that vessel!" 200 warships opened fire at once. The space around the Prometheus turned white with energy. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, guided missiles, beam weapons of every type imaginable. The combined firepower of the Council's finest fleet, enough to sterilize an entire world, poured into the human ship. The bombardment lasted for 3 full minutes. When it finally stopped, the gunners waited for the debris field to clear so they could confirm their kill. The Prometheus hung in space, completely undamaged. Elena Vasquez watched her crew. Some were smiling, others looked relieved. A few seemed almost disappointed that the battle had been so one-sided. "Captain," said Commander Tanaka, "the enemy fleet has exhausted approximately 40% of their ammunition. Their shields are down to minimal power from the energy expenditure. They are effectively defenseless." "I know," Elena's voice was sad. "Open a channel to Admiral Kelvos." The alien admiral appeared on screen. For the first time, his burning eyes showed something other than anger. They showed fear. "Admiral," Elena said gently, "you have attacked us with everything you have. You have damaged nothing. You have proven nothing except that your weapons cannot harm us. Now please, let us stop this foolishness. We did not come here to fight. We came here to talk." Kelvos struggled to find words. His jaw worked silently. Finally, he managed to speak. What are you?" "We are humans, Admiral. Nothing more. Nothing less. We are a species that learned long ago that true strength is not measured by how much you can destroy, but by how much you choose not to destroy. We could end your fleet in seconds. We choose not to. We could take revenge for your unprovoked attack. We choose not to. All we ask is that you give us the chance to speak." In the Council chamber, High Counselor Travanis finally found his voice. "Captain Vasquez, this is the High Counselor. I apologize for the actions of Admiral Kelvos. He acted without the full authority of the Council. We would be honored to speak with you." Elena smiled, and it was a genuine smile, warm and kind. "Thank you, High Counselor. That is all we ever wanted." She turned to her crew. "Stand down all defensive systems. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. It is time to introduce ourselves properly." As the Prometheus powered down its weapons, Valeth stared at the view screen with new understanding. She had witnessed something remarkable today. Not the technology, as impressive as that was. What truly amazed her was the restraint. The humans had been attacked. They had been insulted. They had been threatened with destruction. And they had responded with patience and mercy. That, she realized, was more terrifying than any weapon. What kind of species could hold such power and choose not to use it? What had humanity learned in their hidden years that taught them such wisdom? And most importantly, what did they want from the galaxy? These questions burned in Valeth's mind as she watched the small shuttle emerge from the Prometheus and begin its journey toward the station. The answers, she suspected, would change everything she thought she knew about strength and power. The humans were coming to talk. And for the first time in her long life, Valeth was truly afraid of what she might learn. The diplomatic chamber aboard Nexus Station had been designed to impress visitors. Its walls were covered with artwork from 100 worlds. Its ceiling showed a real-time map of the galaxy, with every council system glowing like a star. Its table was made from crystal grown over 10,000 years in the caves of a sacred moon. Ambassador Valeth had attended meetings in this room for 6 decades. She had never felt nervous in it before. Today, her hands would not stop trembling. The human delegation arrived precisely on time. There were only 3 of them, which surprised many of the watching diplomats. The Vethkari always brought armies of advisors to negotiations. The Karathi traveled with dozens of assistants, but the humans came with just 3 people, as if they had nothing to prove. Captain Elena Vasquez walked in front, her uniform simple and practical. Behind her came a tall man with dark skin and kind eyes, introduced as Dr. Marcus Chen, Humanity's Chief Diplomatic Officer. The third was a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Okonkwo, who carried a small device and said nothing. Valeth studied them carefully. They looked so ordinary, so fragile. Their bodies were soft, without scales or armor. Their eyes held no inner fire. If she had met them on a street, she would never have guessed they commanded enough power to destroy entire civilizations. "Please sit," she said, gesturing to the chairs across from her. "We have much to discuss." Dr. Chen smiled as he took his seat. It was a genuine smile, warm and open. "Thank you, Ambassador. We have waited a long time for this moment, not with fear, but with hope." "Hope?" Valeth could not hide her surprise. "After what Admiral Kelvos did to you? After we fired upon your ship without reason?" "Admiral Kelvos did what he thought was right to protect his people. We do not hold that against him. We understand fear. We have felt it ourselves many times." Valeth exchanged glances with the other diplomats present. This was not how conquered people spoke. This was not how the weak addressed the strong. The humans spoke like teachers talking to children who had made a mistake. "Dr. Chen," she said carefully, "I think we all have many questions. The most important one is simple. How? How did your species achieve such advancement while our observers believed you were still struggling with basic spaceflight?" Dr. Chen nodded. "A fair question. The answer begins 80 years ago, when we detected the first Vethkari scout ship in our solar system." He activated the device Lieutenant Okonkwo carried. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing Earth as a blue marble floating in darkness. We decoded the scout's transmissions. We learned what the galaxy thought of us. Primitive, violent, divided. Useful only as future workers or soldiers for more advanced species. His voice remained calm, but there was weight in his words. We faced a choice. We could reveal ourselves and hope for kindness from strangers. Or we could prepare. "You chose to prepare," Valeth said. "We chose to survive." Dr. Chen's eyes met hers. "You must understand, Ambassador. Humanity has a long and terrible history. We have fought countless wars among ourselves. We have committed horrors that still haunt us. We have built empires on the blood of our own brothers and sisters and watched them crumble into dust." The hologram shifted to show images from human history. Valeth watched with growing unease. Cities burning, bodies lying in fields, weapons of terrible destruction. The humans had done these things to each other without any outside enemy to blame. "But we learned," Dr. Chen continued. "Slowly, painfully, we learned. We discovered that conquest brings only temporary power and eternal hatred. We realized that empires built on fear always fall. We understood at last that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to build." Captain Vasquez spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "When we learned about the galaxy, we could have chosen different paths. We could have hidden forever, hoping to be forgotten. We could have revealed ourselves and begged for protection. We could have built our fleet in secret and then used it to conquer, to make ourselves the rulers of the galaxy." "Why did you not?" asked a Vethkari diplomat, his voice sharp with suspicion. Vasquez turned to face him directly. "Because we have already been conquerors. We have already built empires. We have already dominated the weak and crushed those who resisted. And we learned that it brings nothing but suffering for the conquered and the conqueror alike." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Our hidden fleet could defeat any force in this galaxy. We have weapons you cannot imagine. We have defenses you cannot break. If we wanted to rule, no one could stop us. She turned back to face the diplomats. But we do not want to rule. We have seen where that path leads. We want something much harder to achieve. We want to be partners, friends, equals among equals, working together to build something better than any of us could build alone. The room fell silent. Valeth felt something strange happening in her heart. She had expected threats. She had expected demands. She had expected the humans to act like every other powerful species in history, taking what they wanted because they could. Instead, they offered friendship, and somehow that was more terrifying than any threat. Dr. Chen, she said slowly, you said you have 12 vessels like the Prometheus. You said you have hundreds of smaller ships. You said you have weapons we cannot imagine. Why tell us this? Why reveal your strength? Because secrets create fear, and fear creates conflict. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle. We are done hiding, Ambassador. We want you to know exactly what we are, exactly what we can do. Not to frighten you, but to be honest with you. Trust cannot be built on lies. And what do you want from us? What does humanity ask in return for your friendship? Dr. Chen smiled again, and there was something sad in it. We ask only one thing, Ambassador. We ask you to let us prove ourselves. Let us show you through our actions that our words are true. Let us demonstrate that power can be used for protection rather than conquest. Let us earn your trust, as we hope you will earn ours. Captain Vasquez returned to her seat. We know this will not be easy. We know that many in this galaxy will fear us and hate us simply because of what we can do. We accept that. We are patient. We have waited 80 years for this moment. We can wait longer if we must. Far away in a secure chamber aboard the Vethkari flagship, High Admiral Kale Voss watched the meeting through hidden cameras. His hands clenched into fists as he listened to the humans speak of peace and partnership. He did not believe them. He could not believe them. In his experience, power always sought more power. The strong always dominated the weak. It was the natural order of things. The humans were lying. They had to be lying. And when they revealed their true intentions, the galaxy would burn, unless someone stopped them first. Kale Voss activated a secure communication channel to the Vethkari homeworld. The face of Supreme Commander Thalvox appeared on his screen. Admiral, report. The humans are more dangerous than we imagined, Supreme Commander. Their technology is beyond anything we possess. Their ship shrugged off our entire fleet's firepower like it was nothing. Thalvox's eyes narrowed. And yet they talk of peace? A trick, a deception. They seek to make us lower our guard while they position their forces for conquest. I am certain of it. The Supreme Commander considered for a long moment. What do you propose? Kale Voss leaned forward. The humans have revealed only one ship. They say they have more, but we do not know where. What we do know is that there are human colonies scattered throughout the systems near Earth. Civilian targets. Soft. Vulnerable. You suggest we attack their civilians? I suggest we test their resolve. They speak of peace and mercy. Let us see if they mean it when their people are dying. Let us see how they respond when they are hurt. Thalvox nodded slowly. A bold plan, Admiral. But if you are wrong, if the humans respond with the full force of their hidden fleet, then we will know the truth of what we face. Better to learn it now, while we can still fight, than later, when they have us surrounded. The Supreme Commander made his decision. Very well. You have authorization for a limited strike. Choose your target carefully. Make it painful enough to provoke a response. It will be done, Supreme Commander. Kale Voss cut the communication and began planning his attack. He would teach these arrogant humans that the galaxy was not a place for soft words and gentle dreams. It was a place of blood and fire, where only the strong survived. They would learn this lesson or they would die. And if they truly were as powerful as they claimed, if they truly could destroy his fleet in seconds, then at least the galaxy would see their true nature when they struck back in revenge. Either way, Kale Voss would have his answer. Either way, the mask would fall. The colony ship New Horizon carried 200,000 people across the dark spaces between stars. Most of them were sleeping in the suspension chambers, their bodies held in dreamless rest while the great ship traveled toward their new home. A skeleton crew of 500 kept watch over them, checking systems and counting down the days until arrival. Maria Santos was one of these watchers. She had volunteered for the journey because she believed in humanity's future among the stars. Her grandparents had worked on the Prometheus initiative, building the ships that would one day announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. Maria wanted to be part of the next chapter. She was reviewing navigation data when the first alarm sounded. "Contact," called out the sensor officer, a young man named James who had never seen combat in his life. His voice cracked with fear. "Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. They are Vethkari warships." Captain Hassan rushed to the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket. He was an older man, chosen for this mission because of his steady nerves and years of experience. But even his calm faded when he saw the sensor display. 40 Vethkari attack cruisers surrounded the New Horizon. They were small compared to the great dreadnoughts of the Council fleet, but they were fast and deadly. Their weapons were already powering up. "This is impossible," Hassan breathed. "We are in neutral space. We have no military value. Why would they attack us?" Maria knew the answer, even if she did not want to say it out loud. The Vethkari were not attacking the New Horizon because of what it was. They were attacking because of what it represented. 200,000 human lives floating helpless in the void. A target that would force the Prometheus to respond. A test. "All hands to emergency stations," Captain Hassan ordered. His voice steadied as training took over. "Begin wake-up procedures for priority personnel. Send a distress signal on all frequencies." "Captain," James said, "the Vethkari are jamming our communications. The distress signal is not getting through." Hassan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his face showed acceptance. "Then we do what we can. Reroute all power to shields. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We will give our people every second we can." Maria looked at the faces of her crewmates. Some were crying, some were praying, some stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. None of them had ever expected to die like this, hunted in the darkness by aliens they had never met. But they did not run. They did not surrender. They stayed at their posts and prepared to protect the sleeping thousands who depended on them. The Vethkari fleet moved in for the kill. Aboard the Prometheus, still holding position near Nexus Station, Lieutenant Okonkwo's console suddenly lit up with emergency signals. Her eyes went wide as she processed the data. "Captain," she said, her voice barely controlled, "we are receiving a partial distress signal. It is from the New Horizon. They are under attack." Elena Vasquez felt her heart turn to ice. The New Horizon was 12 light-years away. A colony ship, civilians, families, children still waiting to be born on a new world. "Who is attacking them?" she demanded. "Vethkari cruisers, 40 ships." Dr. Chen looked at her with horror in his eyes. "This is Kael'vas. He is testing us. He wants to see how we respond. If we respond with force, they will call us the aggressors." Commander Tanaka's voice was tight. "If we do not respond, our people will die." Elena stood perfectly still. Every person on the bridge watched her, waiting for her decision. She thought of the children in those suspension chambers, dreaming of a home they might never reach. She thought of the crew, fighting to protect them with nothing but courage and failing shields. She thought of everything humanity had learned about power and mercy and the cost of revenge. Then she made her choice. Navigation, plot a jump to the New Horizon's position. Tactical, bring all weapons online but do not target to kill. We will disable, not destroy. Her voice carried across the bridge like steel. We are going to save our people. And we are going to show the galaxy exactly who we are. The Prometheus moved. In the council chamber, every display suddenly went blank except for one, which tracked the human warship. Ambassador Valeth watched in amazement as the massive vessel simply vanished, crossing 12 light-years in the time it took to blink. "Impossible," whispered High Counselor Travanis. "That's speed. No ship can move that fast." On the screen, the Prometheus reappeared directly between the New Horizon and the Vethkari fleet. Its arrival created a shock wave that scattered the smaller ships like leaves in a storm. For a moment, everything stopped as both sides processed what had just happened. Then the Vethkari opened fire. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. Maria Santos watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as the Prometheus went to work. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large, sliding between the enemy ships like a dancer. Its weapons fired in precise, surgical strikes, targeting engines, weapon systems, and shield generators. One by one, the Vethkari cruisers went dark. Their weapons fell silent. Their engines died. They drifted helpless in space, their crews alive but completely unable to fight. Not a single Vethkari soldier died. Not one. Maria felt tears streaming down her face. She had heard stories about the Prometheus Initiative, about the ideals that drove humanity's hidden program. She had believed them the way one believes in myths and legends, beautiful stories that could not possibly be true. Now she was watching those stories come to life. When the last enemy ship was disabled, Captain Vasquez's voice came through the New Horizon speakers. It was tired but gentle. "Colony ship New Horizon, this is the Prometheus. You are safe now. We are sending medical teams to assist with any casualties. Please hold position until we can arrange an escort." Captain Hassan's voice shook when he responded. "Prometheus, this is New Horizon. We have some wounded, but no deaths. Thank you. Thank you." There was a pause. Then Vasquez spoke again, and Maria heard something like a smile in her words. "You were very brave, Captain. Your crew protected those sleepers until we arrived. Humanity is proud of you." In the council chamber, Valeth realized she was not the only one crying. Diplomats from dozens of species wiped their eyes as they watched the replay of the battle. They had expected slaughter. They had expected revenge. They had expected the humans to destroy the Vethkari fleet and prove themselves to be the same as every other powerful species in history. Instead, they had witnessed mercy. Captain Vasquez appeared on the main screen, still standing on the bridge of her ship. Behind her, the disabled Vethkari vessels drifted in darkness. "High Counselor Travanis," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was weight in it, the weight of choices made and consequences accepted. The Vethkari Dominion attacked an unarmed civilian vessel without warning or provocation. They attempted to kill 200,000 innocent people, including children, to test our response. She paused, letting the words sink in. "We have disabled their attack fleet. We have taken no lives. Their crews are unharmed and will be released as soon as medical checks are complete. We could have destroyed them. We could have killed every soldier who participated in this attack. We chose not to." Her eyes seemed to look directly at everyone watching, as if she could see through the screen into their souls. "This is who we are. This is what humanity believes. We will protect our people with everything we have, but we will not become the monsters we fight. We will not build our future on the corpses of our enemies. Even when they attack our children, even when they try to destroy everything we love, we will not surrender our principles." She straightened, and her voice grew stronger. "The Vethkari have shown the galaxy what they are willing to do. Now we have shown the galaxy what we are willing to do. Let history judge which path leads to a better future." The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Ambassador Valeth understood something that changed her forever. She had spent her whole life believing that power corrupted, that the strong always abused the weak, that mercy was just another word for weakness. The humans had just proven her wrong. They had every reason to destroy. They had every justification for revenge. And they had chosen to spare their enemies, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to know that destruction was never truly necessary. That kind of strength, she realized, was more powerful than any weapon ever built. That kind of strength could change the galaxy, if only enough people were wise enough to follow it. 1 week after the battle, the Galactic Council chamber was fuller than it had been in 100 years. Representatives from species that had not attended meetings in generations had traveled across the galaxy to be present for this moment. The observation galleries were packed with citizens who had won lottery drawings for the few available seats. Billions more watched through broadcast networks that carried the proceedings to every corner of known space. High Admiral Kael Vos stood in the center of the floor, surrounded by guards. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes, once burning with anger, now held only emptiness. He had been stripped of his rank and brought before the council to answer for his actions. High Counselor Travana spoke with the weight of centuries in his voice. Admiral Kael'vas, you are charged with ordering an unprovoked attack on a civilian vessel. You are charged with the attempted murder of 200,000 innocent beings, including children. You are charged with risking a war that could have destroyed countless worlds. How do you respond to these charges? Kael'vas lifted his head. There was no regret in his face. I did what I believed was necessary to protect my people. The humans are a threat. Their power is beyond anything we have ever seen. I tried to expose their true nature before they could move against us. And what did you expose, Admiral? What did your attack reveal? Kael'vas was silent. I will tell you what it revealed, Travanas continued. It revealed that the humans could have destroyed your fleet in seconds. It revealed that they chose to spare every single one of your soldiers. It revealed that even when attacked without reason, even when their families were threatened, they responded with restraint and mercy. The old counselor shook his head. You wanted to show us that the humans were monsters. Instead, you showed us that you were wrong. The Vethkari Supreme Commander Thalvox rose from the delegation seats. His face was hard, but his voice was controlled. The Vethkari Dominion accepts responsibility for the actions of Admiral Kael'vas. We will pay reparations to the humans for the damage caused. We will submit to any reasonable sanctions the Council deems appropriate. It was not an apology. The Vethkari did not apologize, but it was an admission of defeat, and everyone in the chamber knew what it cost them to say it. Captain Elena Vasquez was called to address the Council. She walked to the speaker's platform with steady steps, her simple uniform a contrast to the elaborate robes worn by most of the representatives. She stood alone, without advisors or guards, and looked out at the hundreds of faces watching her. High Counselor, members of the Council, citizens of the galaxy, she began. 1 week ago, your worlds learned that humanity exists, not as the primitive species your scouts reported, but as a civilization that has watched you from the shadows for 80 years. She paused, letting the silence build. I know many of you are afraid. You look at our ships, our weapons, our technology, and you see only the potential for destruction. You remember every empire that rose on the strength of superior force, and you wonder when we will begin our conquest. Her voice softened. I cannot force you to trust us. Trust must be earned through actions, not words. All I can do is tell you what we believe and show you what we are willing to do. She activated a small display device. Images appeared above the council floor, showing scenes from Earth's history. Wars, suffering, death. But also other images. Hands reaching out to help strangers, communities rebuilding after disasters, enemies becoming friends across tables of negotiation. Humanity has made every mistake a species can make. We have waged wars of conquest, we have committed genocide, we have poisoned our own world and nearly destroyed ourselves. We carry the weight of our history like chains around our hearts. Her voice grew stronger. But we learned that empires fall and conquerors are forgotten. We learned that the monuments we build to our power crumble into dust, while the kindness we show to strangers echoes through generations. We learned that true strength is not measured by what you can destroy, but by what you choose to protect. She turned to face the Vethkari delegation directly. Admiral Kael'vas attacked our children. He tried to murder 200,000 innocent people to test our response. By every law of war and justice, we had the right to destroy his fleet and demand terrible punishment. Her eyes held the admiral's. We chose mercy instead, not because we are weak, not because we did not feel rage and grief and the desire for revenge. We chose mercy because we have learned that revenge only creates more pain, more hatred, more cycles of destruction that never end. She addressed the full council again. We do not ask you to believe us. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. Let us work beside you. Let us share our knowledge and learn from yours. Let us build something together that none of us could build alone. Her final words carried across the silent chamber. The humans offer you a choice. You can see us as threats to be feared and enemies to be destroyed. Or you can see us as partners, ready to stand with you against whatever challenges the future might bring. We have made our choice. Now we wait, with hope, To learn yours. She stepped back from the platform and stood waiting. Ambassador Valeth rose from her seat. Her old bones protested the movement, but she did not let that stop her. She had spent her whole life serving the Council, watching the endless cycles of war and peace, conquest and collapse. She had grown tired of it. She had begun to believe that nothing would ever change. The humans had given her hope again. "Hi, Counselor," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "I have served this council for 60 years. I have witnessed many species claim to want peace while preparing for war. I have heard many promises that were never kept." She turned to look at Captain Vasquez. "But I have never seen anything like what the humans did at the Battle of New Horizon. They had every right to kill. They had every reason to destroy. And they chose to spare their enemies, even at the risk that those enemies might attack again." She faced the council. "That is not weakness. That is strength of a kind I have never witnessed. It is the strength of a species that has truly learned from its past. I believe the humans mean what they say. I believe they want partnership, not conquest. And I believe we would be fools to reject what they offer." She sat down heavily, exhausted by the effort of speaking. But she had said what needed to be said. The vote that followed was not unanimous. It could never be unanimous. Too many species still feared the humans, still doubted their intentions, still believed that such power must eventually corrupt. But the majority voted in favor of welcoming humanity into the galactic community. It was a beginning. 3 hours later, Captain Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus, looking out at the stars. Dr. Chen found her there, standing alone in the quiet darkness. "It is done," he said softly. "We are part of the galaxy now." "The easy part is done," Elena replied. "The hard part is just beginning. We have to earn their trust. Every day, every decision, every action will be watched and judged. One mistake could undo everything." "You doubt we can do it?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I believe we can. I believe humanity has learned enough to stay true to what we promised. But I also know how easy it is to fall back into old patterns. Power corrupts. Fear drives people to terrible choices. The temptations we will face." Dr. Chen moved to stand beside her at the window. "Then we remind each other. Every day. We remember why we chose this path. We remember what we almost became and what we decided to be instead." Elena nodded slowly. "The children on the New Horizon will grow up in a galaxy where humans walk among the stars. They will never know the fear we felt, hiding in the shadows, preparing for a war we hoped would never come. They will have opportunities we could never have imagined." She smiled, and it was a real smile, full of genuine warmth. "That is worth fighting for. That is worth any sacrifice." Outside the window, lights began to appear. Ships from a dozen different species were forming up around the Prometheus, preparing to escort the human vessel toward the frontier. Council ships and human ships, traveling together toward unknown spaces. It was a small gesture, a symbolic one. But symbols mattered. They showed what people believed was possible. Elena watched the formation take shape and felt something she had not felt in years. Not hope exactly. Something deeper. Something like peace. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and ancient and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there were challenges they could not imagine, threats they could not predict, choices that would test everything they believed, but they would face them together, human and alien, stranger and friend. United not by force, but by the fragile, powerful thing called trust. The Prometheus moved forward, leading the convoy into the darkness between stars. Behind them, the past faded into memory. Ahead of them, the future waited to be written. And for the first time in 80 years, humanity walked among the stars not as hidden watchers, not as frightened survivors, but as partners in the great work of building something better. The journey had just begun.